Hello everyone, welcome once again to round number 10 of the FIDE Candidates 2022 in Madrid. And the last decisive game of this round is Jan Christoph's Duda, winning over Caruana. And this is a very big blow to Caruana's chances in the candidates. All right, this is a second loss for Caruana with the black pieces. But also this is Duda's first win in the candidates. Let's check it out. Duda was white. He went for e4. Caruana with e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. The Italian game once more. Elite chess, the most popular line in elite level, the Italian. c3, knight f6, d3. d6 castles, a6, all right, a line for the bishop, then a7, a4, bishop a7, rook e1, castles, h3, bishop e6, takes on e6, takes on e6, b4, Caruana went for knight h5, the bishop and the rook looks dangerous here on the f-file. But white can easily go for rook a2 later on if he wants to protect on f2. So Duda went on knight b2 first, protecting the knight on f3, knight into f4, knight f1. Queen protects d3 and also f3, avoiding knight takes h3. So queen f6, take the knight first, queen takes f4, then queen b3. All right. Attacking e6, rook into f6, b5, hitting the knight. Knight a5. All right, that knight is attacking that queen with a tempo, but the problem is the knight has no better square to go after that. Now let's take a look at knight e7 here. If knight e7, then white will surely go for d4 straight away, and maybe black can go knight g6. But takes, if you take an a6, right, queen b7, you just go rook f8, yeah, protecting the rook protects a7. And here, if let's say, okay, after takes, white could go for knight 1 h2, you can go for knight h4. I'm not sure if, but at least the knight helps somewhere, yeah, compared to knight a5. Okay, but we're talking about elite chess here, so it's hard to argue what they're playing. Yeah, but for a simple reason, knight on the rim is dim on a5. Queen a2, g5. One is going for broke, but it's too early to go for g5 here. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he underestimated white's defense here with knight 1 h2 and then d4. The knight and the pawn controls g4. He went for h5, g3. All right, queen goes back to f6, and just rook b1. The main point is that if you push on g4, just takes, and then d takes e5, d takes e5, the knight will jump to h4, the queen is protecting f2. If you go back to g7, for example, I will just go king g2 here, yeah? Okay, let's put a rook on f8. And now I can jump to knight f5, or even just go rook e2 here, yeah? The problem is black is a piece down because the knight cannot help on a5. He doesn't have enough to take on f2, which is the only counterplay for black. Caruana went for rook g7, king h1, moving out of the danger zone on this dark square diagonal. Rook into f8, takes on e5, takes on e5, the rook will be active on the d file. Doesn't matter this f2 pawn because the king's ready on h1. Again, when the knight is beside the king is safe. h4, looking for a way for the knight to jump. G5. The jumping off square. Okay, it takes an H4, bishop C5. Black doesn't have enough because the knight is lonely on A5. It doesn't have a square to jump. Yeah, so G1, removing the defender, the G rook protecting his king. Bishop went back to D6, knight G5, hitting E6. King H8 here, Duda, the queen E2. He can also capture E6 here. Maybe he was worried about rook takes G1, rook takes G1, and probably queen takes F2. But then again, the knight is protecting F3. He can just go queen D5 here, yeah? The rook is under attack. Now, let's take a look at, let's say, I don't know, rook F7 maybe. But then the knight goes back to G5. Okay, maybe another move, rook F8. And then I think we can go P6, yeah? You go back to F6, for example, and the knight's free. Okay, already winning for white, yes. But Duda wanted to do it safely. Queen E2, keeping an eye on C4, hitting H5. Queen G6, rook lift, double up on the G5 to attack G7. Takes. Oh, sorry, takes on B5 with the G3, Queen E8. A takes B5 again. Knight takes E6 is a possibility here. If rook takes G3, you have rook takes G3 because the queen cannot take the knight. This queen takes H5 mate. Yeah, Queen H6, Queen takes H6 mate. And if you don't, okay, let's say exchange the rook. There's Queen F3. It's hard to find this one. Rook takes G3, Queen F6. Let's say King G8, F takes G3. Yeah, if Queen F7, I would go for Queen D8. Okay, this is just not so easy to find. So Duda went for a more human type, of course, simple A takes B5, keeping the knight off the board, protecting this one, queen on C4. Okay, the knight has B3 to C5, but Caruana went for rook F6, queen F1, B6, queen G2, Alekhine's gone, queen F8, queen H3, knight hitting E6 once more with the queen on H3, queen G8, rook G2. Knight now is able to play, but too late. And Duda find this beautiful resource with knight H7. What a move! Woohoo! I want to play rook f G6. Now let's take a look at rook takes G3 here. This knight takes F6, yeah, because if you take a queen, this G8 is mate. Yes, what to do? Yeah. You lose the queen or you lose the rook. So force rook f G6, take the rook, knight G5 back. Now without one rook, it's hard to defend because if let's say you put the knight on C5, the queen goes back to F3. If you go rook H6, now we have knight F7 and queen. Right, taking away one rook. Black is just dead, yeah? So rook F6, Caruana, F4. What a move by Duda. Okay, that's why he's champion in the World Cup, and that's why he qualifies for the candidates. Yeah? Sometimes it's just a matter of, I don't know, it's just the breaks of the game. That's why Duda was in the last place before this round. And with his first win, is back to number 6, I guess. It's now Firuza going back to number 8. It's just breaks. All of these 8 players are pretty strong players. But somebody has to lose. Someone has to lose. Someone will be down there. Someone is up there. It's just part of the game. Yeah? But in this game, it was Duda over Caruana. Caruana was able to move his knight down to C5, but too late. Too late, the hero takes an E5. Knight G-F3, over attack. And rook attacking queen. Queen E8, he's up. Knight takes e4. Caruana still fights, but knight hf3. It's k-square for the king. h2. Queen goes to c1, threatening queen h4 here. Knight e3. Sorry, queen f4. Knight protects. Queen takes e3. Rook a2. Nice move by Duda. If you take the knight on d3, there's rook a8. If you go king g7, for example, queen g2, because king h7, you lose that queen with knight g5 right here. Scored attack with the check. So king g7, we have queen g2 check. If you go king f7, queen g8, king to e7, queen e8, king d6, right? I have queen c6, or I can just simply play rook to d8, yeah, and take your queen on d3. So Caruana had to be resourceful. He played knight f2, nice move. The main point is that if you go rook to a8, king g7, you don't have queen g3 or queen g2 anymore, because the knight will cover the check with his counter check. So it forces Duda to capture the knight with the rook, because if he captures with the knight, okay, well, black can go for queen takes f3, and it's not easy with that number of pawns. Compared to what happened in the game, rook takes f2, queen takes d3, it's the same. But queen d6 takes, king to g3, after rook f5, rook to d2, right, hitting the pawn, this pawn, and that pawn, yeah. Takes, because if you push, if you want to stay connected, the rook will attack the other pawn. If you protect, there's rook e5, or there's even knight g5, yeah. It cannot stop the pawns from falling one by one. Rook takes b5, rook takes 3 isolated pawns. White only needs one pawn. Okay, because rook knight against rook is a draw. It's a table-based draw, but he still has one h pawn to keep. King g7, rook takes e6. You cannot push that pawn to e5, because there's rook h6, king g7, and then take. And there's a pin, and that's the target. So king g7, picking up apples one by one. Rook takes e6, rook b4, keeping that king away from the fourth rank. Rook e5, hitting another pawn on h5. King h6, rook to d5, d1, knight d4, centralized knight, f5, f3, e2. Look at the knight. When the knight is in the middle, it's complete domination. Yeah, the knight dominates, especially in the end game when you are centralized. So rook g1, king f4, and Caruana resign. Again, why is the knight dominant when it's in the middle? If you play rook g4 check, hitting the pawn, right, and the king will just go e5, because if you take that h4 pawn, the knight jumps on f5, attacking both pieces. Now, if let's say the king goes to g6, knight f5 protects, the rook can go d6. And let's say you protect the b6 pawn, rook d6 check. King goes back to f7, rook f6 check. Okay, you want to escape, right? Or I can also go rook to d7 here. Yeah, you want to go back to g6, rook d7 is mate. If you go king e8, right, I can simply play rook d5, or maybe anywhere. Yeah, I can just keep the rook on b7. But rook d5 also threatening mate somewhere. Yeah. But rook h7 is also another win. Rook takes h5, simple. You just choose. Yeah. Centralized king, bad king. Rook takes h5 later on, promotes. This is winning for white. So Caruana had enough after king f4. He resigned, and his chances of winning the candidates is getting slimmer. Okay, he's still tied for second with Nakamura, ending Liren. But Nepomniachtchi is running away with 7. He has this 1.5 lead going into the last 4 rounds. Although it's still anybody's game, one bad day, 1 or 2 bad days for Nepo, then these 3 guys will catch up. Okay, it's still exciting. All right, the finish line is almost there. We will see what happens in the next 4 games. We'll find out as we continue our coverage of the FIDE Candidates 2022 in Madrid. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.